The silence of deep space was broken only by the steady hum of the ship's engines. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the research vessel UES Meridian, watching the stars through the main viewport. 3 years into humanity's first deep space mission beyond the Orion Arm, and they still hadn't found what they were looking for. "Commander, I'm picking up something strange," called out Communications Officer Rachel Martinez from her station. Her fingers danced across the control panel as she fine-tuned the sensors. "It's a distress signal, but the pattern is unlike anything in our databases." Jake walked over to Rachel's station and looked at the display. The signal pulsed in a rhythm that seemed almost organic, like a heartbeat. "How far away?" 2 hours at current speed. The signal is weak but steady. Dr. Lisa Hartwell looked up from her research station where she had been studying mineral samples from their last planetary survey. "A distress signal means survivors. We have to help them." Lieutenant Casey Brooks, the ship's tactical officer, was less enthusiastic. "Or it could be a trap. We don't know what's out here." Jake considered both viewpoints. The Meridian was a small ship with only a crew of 12. They were explorers, not soldiers. But they were also human, and humans had a long tradition of helping those in need, even strangers. "We investigate," Jake decided. "But we stay alert. Casey, run a full diagnostic on our defensive systems. Tyler, I want to know everything about that signal." Engineer Tyler Adams nodded from his position at the engineering console. "Already on it, Commander. The signal is definitely artificial, but the technology is completely foreign. Whoever sent this uses different principles than we do." The next 2 hours passed slowly as the Meridian changed course toward the distress signal. The crew ran through standard first contact protocols, even though they hoped they wouldn't need them. This was supposed to be a simple rescue mission. When they finally reached the source of the signal, what they found surprised them all. A ship hung motionless in space, but it was unlike any human vessel. The design was sleek and organic-looking, almost like it had been grown rather than built. Dark metal that seemed to absorb light covered its hull. "Life signs?" Jake asked. Dr. Hartwell checked her sensors. "1. Very weak. Whatever it is, it's dying." "The ship appears to be severely damaged," Tyler reported. "Multiple hull breaches, power systems failing. But the strange thing is, I can't figure out what caused the damage. The patterns don't match any weapon signatures in our database." Casey studied the tactical readings. "No immediate threats detected. But, Commander, that ship's design suggests whoever built it knows how to fight. Look at those weapon ports." Jake could see what she meant. Even damaged, the alien vessel looked dangerous. "Rachel, can you get a translation matrix working?" "I'm trying, but their language is completely different from anything we've encountered. It might take time." "We don't have time. Dr. Hartwell, prepare the medical bay for an unknown species. Everyone else, standard rescue protocols. Let's bring them aboard." The rescue operation went smoothly. Using the Meridian's tractor beam, they pulled the lone survivor from the wreckage of his ship. The alien was unconscious and severely injured when they brought him to the medical bay. Dr. Hartwell's first look at their patient was unsettling. The creature was roughly humanoid, but clearly built for violence. It stood nearly 7 feet tall, even lying down, with dense muscle structure visible beneath scaled skin. Multiple eyes were set in a skull that suggested high intelligence, but the jaw was filled with sharp teeth designed for tearing flesh. "Incredible," Dr. Hartwell whispered as she worked. "This physiology is amazing. Look at the bone density readings. These bones are stronger than our steel alloys." And these muscle fibers, this creature could probably tear through a steel door with its bare hands. Jake watched from the doorway. Can you save it? I think so. The injuries are severe, but the biological systems are incredibly robust. This species has redundant organs for almost everything. It's like they evolved specifically to survive damage that would kill most other life forms. Or to inflict it, Casey added quietly. Hours passed as Dr. Hartwell worked to stabilize their patient. Rachel made progress on the translation software, building a basic communication matrix from the aliens' ship computers. Tyler studied the wreckage, trying to understand the technology. Finally, the alien's multiple eyes opened. It looked around the medical bay with obvious confusion, then focused on the humans surrounding it. Dr. Hartwell could see intelligence in those eyes, but also something else, something predatory. Easy, Dr. Hartwell said gently, raising her hands to show she meant no harm. You're safe. We rescued you. The alien tried to speak, and after a moment, Rachel's translation system began to work. The voice that came through the speakers was deep and somewhat mechanical, but understandable. Where am I? You're aboard our ship, Jake said, stepping forward. I'm Commander Morrison. We found you drifting in space and brought you aboard for medical treatment. The alien's eyes fixed on Jake, studying him with an intensity that made the commander uncomfortable. You saved me? Why? Because you needed help, Dr. Hartwell answered simply. It's what we do. This seemed to confuse the alien even more. What you do? I do not understand. We help people who are in trouble, Jake explained. What's your name? What happened to your ship? The alien was quiet for a long moment, still studying each human in turn. Finally, it spoke. I am called Zexthul. My ship was attacked. By whom? Casey asked. The swarm, Zexthul said, but the translation seemed uncertain. They came from the dark places between stars. We fought, but there were too many. Tyler looked puzzled. Our scans didn't show any signs of weapon damage consistent with a swarm attack. The damage pattern suggests something else. Zexthul's eyes narrowed slightly, but his expression remained neutral. Your scans may not understand our technology. Dr. Hartwell continued her medical work, fascinated by the alien physiology. Your species is remarkably resilient. I've never seen anything like this healing rate. We are Kethari, Zexthul said, and there was something like pride in his voice. We are strong. The Kethari, Rachel repeated, adding the name to her translation database. We're human, from a planet called Earth. Human, Zexthul said slowly, as if testing the word. You are very small. Jake noticed that the alien seemed to be taking mental notes about everything he saw. The way Zexthul's eyes tracked movement, calculated distances, and studied the medical equipment suggested a mind that was always analyzing, always planning. Small but resourceful, Jake replied. We've managed to reach the stars despite our limitations. Yes, Zexthul said, and for just a moment, Jake thought he saw something like amusement in those alien eyes. Despite your limitations, as Dr. Hartwell continued her work, the crew began to relax slightly. The alien seemed genuinely grateful for their help, even if his questions were sometimes strange. But none of them noticed how carefully Zexthul was studying their every move, or how his eyes lingered on their physical weaknesses. The rescue had been successful, but none of them realized yet that they had just invited death aboard their ship. 20 hours had passed since they rescued Zexthul, and Dr. Hartwell was amazed by the alien's recovery rate. What should have taken weeks of healing had happened overnight. The Kethari was now sitting up in the medical bay, moving with fluid, grace despite his recent injuries. "Your healing abilities are incredible," Dr. Hartwell said as she ran another scan. "The tissue regeneration rate is unlike anything in our medical databases." Zexthul watched the scanner with interest. "All. Kethari, heal quickly. It is necessary for survival." "Survival of what?" Rachel asked from her position at the communication console. She had been working on expanding the translation matrix, and the conversations were becoming much clearer. "Survival of the hunt," Zexthul replied, then seemed to realize his words might need explanation. "My people are hunters. We must be strong to survive in our territory." Jake had been listening from the doorway. The alien's recovery was good news, but something about Zexthul's manner still bothered him. What kind of hunting? For food? For dominance, Zexthul said simply. "The strong survive, the weak become prey." Dr. Hartwell frowned as she looked at her latest scans. "These readings are fascinating. Your bone structure is incredibly dense, almost like natural armor. And these neural pathways, you have backup nervous systems. It's like your entire body is designed for combat." "We are what we needed to become," Zexthul said. "Our world shaped us, just as yours shaped you." Tyler Adams looked up from his engineering station where he had been analyzing data from the alien ship. "Speaking of shaping, I'm getting some unusual energy readings from your vessel's remains. The power source is unlike anything we've seen." "Kethari technology is advanced," Zexthul acknowledged. "We have had much time to perfect it." "How long has your species been spacefaring?" Rachel asked. "Many thousands of your years. We have expanded across 17 star systems." Casey, who had been quietly observing from her tactical station, finally spoke up. 17 systems is a large territory. Your people must be excellent explorers." Something flickered in Zexthul's multiple eyes. "We are excellent at taking what we need." The way he said it made the bridge fall silent for a moment. Jake decided to change the subject. "Tell us about this swarm that attacked you. Are they a threat to other ships in this area?" Zexthul seemed to consider his answer carefully. "The swarm is difficult to explain. They come from empty space, attack without warning, then disappear. Very dangerous. We should warn other vessels in the area," Dr. Hartwell suggested. "Send out a general alert." "That would be wise," Zexthul agreed, but Jake noticed the alien's expression had become unreadable. Over the next few hours, Zexthul proved to be a curious guest. He asked many questions about human physiology, technology, and culture. Dr. Hartwell was happy to share her knowledge, fascinated by the opportunity for true xenological exchange. "Your species is very fragile," Zexthul observed as Dr. Hartwell explained human anatomy. "Single heart, single brain, breakable bones. How do you survive?" "We use tools and work together," Dr. Hartwell explained. "We may not be physically strong, but we're good at solving problems." "Tools," Zexthul repeated thoughtfully. "Yes, I have observed your tools. Very clever for such a weak species," Rachel looked up from her console. "We prefer to think of ourselves as efficient rather than weak." "Of course," Zexthul said, and Jake could have sworn he heard amusement in the alien's voice. "Efficient. Tyler had been growing more concerned about the energy readings from the alien ship's wreckage. "Commander, I'm detecting some anomalous patterns in the debris field. The power signatures don't match what I'd expect from a ship that was supposedly overwhelmed by attackers." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "Well, if the ship was destroyed by external forces, I'd expect to see certain types of damage patterns. But what I'm seeing suggests the damage might have been intentional." Zexthul turned his multiple eyes toward Tyler with sudden intensity. "Your instruments may not understand Keth-Hari technology. The damage was caused by the swarm." "I'm sure you're right," Tyler said quickly, but he continued studying his readings. Casey had been running standard security protocols and reviewing the ship's defensive systems. Something about having an unknown alien aboard, even a rescued one, made her nervous. "Commander, I'd like to implement some additional security measures while we have a guest." "What kind of measures?" Jake asked. "Standard diplomatic protocols. Restricted access to certain areas of the ship, monitoring of critical systems, that sort of thing." Zexthul looked directly at Casey. "You do not trust me." "It's nothing personal," Casey replied. "It's just standard procedure when dealing with unknown species." "I understand," Zexthul said. "Caution is wise, though I am curious about what you think I might do. I am alone, injured, and dependent on your kindness." Dr. Hartwell looked up from her medical readings. "Actually, you're healing so fast that I'd say you're almost completely recovered. Your physical capabilities are probably back to normal." "Normal for a Keth-Hari is quite impressive," Zexthul acknowledged. "We are much stronger than most species we encounter." "Most species?" Rachel asked. "You've met many other intelligent races?" "Oh, yes," Zexthul said, and this time Jake was certain he heard something predatory in the alien's tone. "The Keth-Hari have encountered many species across our territory. We have learned much about their capabilities." Jake decided it was time to learn more about their guest's background. "Tell us about your people's history. How did the Keth-Hari become such skilled hunters?" Zexthul seemed pleased by the question. "My people evolved on a world where only the strongest survived. Every creature on our planet was a predator. We learned to hunt or be hunted. Eventually, we became the apex predators of our world." "And then you reached the stars," Tyler said. "Yes. And we found that the same rules applied. The strong dominate, the weak. The hunter survive while the prey do not." Dr. Hartwell looked troubled. "That seems like a harsh way to view the universe. What about cooperation, trade, peaceful coexistence?" Zexthul stared at her for a long moment. "Those are prey concepts. Predators take what they need." The bridge fell quiet again. Jake was beginning to understand why Casey had suggested additional security measures. "Well," he said finally, "humans have found that cooperation often works. Better than conflict." "Perhaps," Zexthul said. "But humans are very small and weak. You may not have had a choice." "We choose cooperation because it makes us stronger," Rachel insisted. "Does it?" Zexthul asked. And now Jake was certain the alien was studying them with the intensity of a scientist examining specimens. "How interesting." Tyler's console beeped with an urgent alert. "Commander, I'm detecting massive energy spikes from the wreckage of the Keth-Hari ship. The power core isn't dead after all." Jake spun toward the main display. On screen, the image showed the alien vessel's remains, but now energy was coursing through the hull plating. Lights were coming online and the ship's shape was beginning to change. "That's impossible," Dr. Hartwell said. "The ship was completely destroyed. Zexthul looked at the display with what might have been satisfaction. Cathari ships are very resilient, like their crews. You said the ship was destroyed by this swarm, Casey said, her hand moving toward her weapon. I said it was attacked, Zexthul corrected. The ship's systems are automated. They have been waiting. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Waiting for what? Zexthul turned his multiple eyes toward Jake. And for the first time, the commander saw the alien's true nature reflected there. Waiting for me to complete my evaluation. The ship's alert klaxons began to sound as Tyler's scanners detected weapon systems coming online aboard the Cathari vessel. But it was too late. They had already invited the predator aboard, and now he was no longer pretending to be prey. The klaxons wailed throughout the meridian as energy readings from the Cathari ship climbed to dangerous levels. Jake's mind raced as he tried to understand what was happening. The destroyed alien vessel was rapidly coming back to life, and their guest was no longer bothering to hide his true nature. Tyler, raise shields and prepare evasive maneuvers, Jake ordered, but Zexthul spoke calmly from the medical bay. That will not be necessary, Commander Morrison. My ship is not a threat to you. Yet. Casey had drawn her sidearm and was pointing it at the alien, though she maintained her distance. What do you mean, yet? Zexthul remained sitting on the medical table, seemingly relaxed, despite the weapon aimed at him. I mean that my ship's revival is simply a protocol. It waits for my signal before taking any hostile action. Signal? Rachel asked, her fingers hovering over the communication console. What kind of signal? The signal that my evaluation is complete, Zexthul replied, his multiple eyes fixed on each crew member in turn, and Jake could see him cataloging their positions, their capabilities, their weapons. The signal that indicates whether your species is worthy of survival or merely another source of prey. Dr. Hartwell stepped back from the medical scanner, finally understanding the true nature of their patient. You've been studying us. This whole time you've been gathering intelligence. Of course, Zexthul said matter-of-factly. It is standard. Cathari protocol when encountering a new species. First, we evaluate their capabilities. Then we determine their classification. Classification? Jake asked, though he was beginning to suspect he didn't want to know the answer. Predator, prey, or irrelevant, Zexthul explained. Predators become allies or are eliminated as competition. Prey becomes food or slaves. Irrelevant species are simply ignored until they become relevant. Tyler's hands flew over his engineering console as he tried to understand the alien ship's systems. Commander, the energy signature from that vessel is growing stronger. Whatever it's preparing to do, it's going to be powerful. And what classification? Have you given humanity? Casey asked, her weapon still trained on Zexthul. The alien actually seemed amused by the question. Humans are certainly not predators. You lack the physical capabilities, the proper instincts, the necessary ruthlessness. You save dying strangers, share your knowledge freely, and worry about the welfare of your enemies. Those are strengths. Not weaknesses, Rachel protested. Are they? Zexthul challenged. You rescued me without knowing anything about my species or my intentions. Dr. Hartwell gave me detailed information about human physiology and your ship's capabilities. You trust blindly and act on emotion rather than logic. These are prey behaviors. Dr. Hartwell felt sick as she realized how much information she had shared. Medical data, ship specifications, crew size, defensive capabilities. She had handed it all over to what was essentially a reconnaissance agent. "So we're prey?" Jake asked. "Oh, unquestionably," Zexthul confirmed. "But the question remaining is what type of prey? Are you useful prey that can be harvested for labor and resources? Or are you simply food?" Casey's finger tightened on her weapon's trigger. "I vote we find out how tough you really are." Zexthul looked at her weapon with something approaching pity. "Lieutenant Brooks, your reflexes are approximately 1/3 the speed of a Kethari. By the time your brain sends the signal to fire that weapon, I will have moved beyond its targeting range. Would you like a demonstration?" "Casey, hold your—" "Fire!" Jake ordered. He needed time to think, time to understand what they were really facing. "Zexthul, you said your people have encountered other species. What happened to them?" "That depends on their classification and their usefulness," Zexthul replied. "The Veltar were strong fighters but poor workers. They became sport. The Hixine were excellent laborers but had no fighting spirit. They became slaves. The Quinara tried to resist our evaluation. They became extinct." The medical bay fell, silent except for the sound of the ship's alert systems. Jake could see the fear in his crew's eyes, but also something else. Determination. Humans might be prey in Zexthul's classification system, but they were stubborn prey. "Tyler, how long?" "Until that ship is fully operational?" Jake asked. "At current power-up rates, maybe 10 minutes, Tyler replied. "But Commander, I'm seeing something strange in the energy patterns. It's almost like the ship is running a diagnostic of our vessel." "It is," Zexthul confirmed. "My ship is analyzing your technology, your defensive capabilities, and your crew size. When the analysis is complete, it will transmit the data to the nearest Kethari outpost." "And then?" Dr. Hartwell asked. "Then a hunting pack will arrive to claim this sector for my people. Your ship will be taken, your technology studied, and your crew evaluated for their potential uses." Rachel had been working quietly at her communication, stationed during the conversation. "Commander, I've been analyzing the communication protocols between Zexthul and his ship. The transmission hasn't been sent yet, but it's building toward a major data burst." Jake's mind raced through their options. They were facing a superior opponent with advanced technology and hostile intentions. But they weren't dead yet, which meant they still had a chance. "What exactly does this evaluation process involve?" Jake asked. Zexthul seemed pleased by the question. "I observe your species under stress, how you react to threats, how you fight, how you die. Your responses. Tell me everything I need to know about human capabilities and limitations." "And how are we doing so far?" Casey asked with forced humor. "Poorly," Zexthul replied honestly. "You show classic prey responses, fear, confusion, attempts at negotiation rather than immediate violence. Very disappointing for a spacefaring species." Tyler looked up from his console with alarm. "Commander, the alien ship is targeting our communication array. If it takes out our communications, we won't be able to call for help." "Help would not arrive in time anyway," Zexthul said calmly. "The nearest human vessel is weeks away. My hunting pack, however, can be here in days." Dr. Hartwell had been listening to the conversation while studying her medical readings on Zexthul. Something wasn't adding up. "Wait a minute. You said your ship was attacked by a swarm, but now you're saying it was never really damaged?" Zexthul's expression didn't change. "The attack was simulated. My ship created false damage and broadcast a distress signal designed to attract potential prey. You responded exactly as predicted." "It was all a trap," Rachel said with growing anger. "An efficient trap. Zexthul corrected. We have used this method successfully across dozens of star systems. Species that respond to distress calls reveal their nature immediately. Warriors ignore such signals. Predators investigate cautiously. Only prey rushes to help without consideration for their own safety. Jake felt a cold rage building in his chest. This creature had manipulated their compassion, turned their humanity against them. But anger wouldn't help them now. They needed to think, to find a weakness in this perfect predator. You're very confident, Jake observed. But you're also alone on a ship full of humans. Doesn't that concern you? Zexthul actually laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Commander Morrison, I could kill everyone on this bridge before your Dr. Hartwell could take her next breath. Your species is physically inferior in every measurable way. You are slow, weak, fragile, and predictable. Maybe, Jake said, but we're still alive. For now, Zexthul agreed. But my evaluation is nearly complete, and I'm afraid the results are not in your favor. The ship's computer announced that the time was a 1:58. In just a few minutes, Jake realized, their fate would be sealed. Whatever was going to happen, it would happen soon. What happens when your evaluation is finished? Dr. Hartwell asked. Zexthul smiled, revealing rows of sharp teeth designed for tearing flesh. Then you will discover why the Kethari are the apex predators of this galaxy. But as Jake looked around at his crew, he saw something that Zexthul had missed in his evaluation. The alien saw fear, confusion, and weakness. Jake saw determination, intelligence, and the stubborn human refusal to give up even when faced with impossible odds. Maybe it was time to show their guest what humanity was really capable of. The ship's chronometer showed Aero 2 Pentosaurs exactly when everything changed. Tyler's console erupted with warnings as the Kethari vessel's weapon systems came fully online. Energy readings spiked to levels that made the engineer's hands shake as he tried to process the data. Commander, that ship is targeting our main power core, Tyler announced, his voice tight with stress. One shot from those weapons and we're dead in space. Jake's hand moved toward the general alarm, but Zexthul spoke before he could reach it. There is no need for alarm, Commander Morrison. My ship will not fire unless I give it the appropriate signal. The alien's multiple eyes gleamed with predatory satisfaction. And I will only give that signal once my evaluation is complete. And when will that be? Dr. Hartwell asked, though her voice suggested she already knew the answer. Zexthul tilted his head, studying each human with the detached interest of a scientist examining insects. At exactly 02:01, his expression changed. The pretense of gratitude, the false vulnerability, the careful questions, all of it fell away like a discarded mask. What remained was something that made every human instinct scream danger. Dr. Hartwell saw him smile, and it was the most terrifying thing she had ever witnessed. Not because of the sharp teeth, though they were frightening enough. It was the complete absence of anything remotely human in that expression. This was the smile of a perfect predator who had just finished analyzing his prey and found them wanting. The evaluation is complete, Zexthul announced, rising smoothly from the medical table. The restraints that Dr. Hartwell had placed on him snapped like paper threads. I have learned everything I need to know about human capabilities, limitations, and psychology. Casey still had her weapon trained on him, but now Zexthul made no effort to avoid it. Instead, he stood to his full height, nearly 7 feet of dense muscle and natural armor. The medical bay suddenly seemed very small. And what have you learned? Jake asked, fighting to keep his voice steady. That humans are the most pathetic species I have ever encountered, Zexthul replied with casual cruelty. You are weak, slow, fragile, and naive. Your bones break easily, your reflexes are laughably inadequate, and your survival instincts are completely defective. He began to move around the medical bay with fluid grace, and Jake noticed that every step was calculated. To improve his tactical position, Dr. Hartwell kindly provided me with detailed scans of human anatomy. Your species has no redundant organs, no natural armor, no enhanced healing, and no combat adaptations of any kind. We have intelligence, Rachel said defiantly. Do you? Zexthul challenged. You rescued a complete stranger without knowing anything about his species or intentions. You shared classified information freely. You allowed me unrestricted access to your ship and crew. If this is human intelligence, then you are even more doomed than I initially calculated. Tyler's console beeped urgently. Commander, the alien ship is transmitting. It's sending our location and detailed information about our vessel to somewhere. The transmission is incredibly powerful. To the nearest Kethari outpost, Zexthul confirmed. A hunting pack will arrive within 72 hours to claim this territory and harvest any useful resources. Including us? Dr. Hartwell asked. Zexthul considered the question with the detached air of someone deciding whether to keep a pet. That depends on whether you prove useful. Humans are too weak for heavy labor and too slow for hunting companions. Your technology is primitive, but might have some salvage value. Your biological material could potentially be used for research or food. The casual way he discussed their fate made Casey's trigger finger twitch, but Jake caught her eye and shook, his head slightly. Not yet. They needed to understand what they were facing before they acted. You seem very confident for someone who's outnumbered 5-1, Jake observed. This seemed to amuse Zexthul greatly. Commander Morrison, would you be concerned about being outnumbered by 5 rabbits? Or 5 fish? That is the level of threat you represent to me. To demonstrate his point, Zexthul reached out and casually bent a steel medical instrument with one hand. The metal groaned and twisted like soft clay. Kethari bone structure is 3 times denser than human bones. Our muscle fibers are 4 times more efficient. Our reaction time is 3 times faster than yours. He released the twisted metal and it clattered to the floor. But the physical advantages are not even the most important factor. We think differently than prey species. While you are still processing a threat, we have already identified 17 ways to kill you and chosen the most efficient. Dr. Hartwell watched in horror as Zexthul moved closer to Casey. The lieutenant maintained her aim, but Jake could see the uncertainty in her eyes. How do you shoot something that claims it can move faster than you can pull a trigger? Your weapons are designed for use against other humans, Zexthul continued, now standing within arm's reach of Casey. They might injure a Kethari, but we have redundant organ systems. We can function normally with severe damage that would kill a human instantly. Casey, fire! Jake ordered. But even as he spoke, Zexthul moved. The alien's speed was inhuman. One moment he was standing in front of Casey's weapon, the next he was beside her, his hand closing around the pistol. Metal screamed as he crushed the weapon like an empty can. Casey stumbled backward, staring at the twisted remains of her sidearm. As I was saying, Zexthul continued as if nothing had happened, your weapons are inadequate. Tyler frantically worked at his console, trying to find some way to disable the alien ship or call for help. But every system he accessed showed the same thing. They were completely outmatched technologically. The fascinating thing about humans, Zex Thul continued, is how you react to hopeless situations. Most prey species accept their fate once they understand their position. But humans seem to have a defective survival instinct that makes you struggle even when struggle is pointless. Maybe that's because we don't accept your classification system, Rachel said, though her voice shook slightly. Whether you accept it or not is irrelevant, Zexathul replied. The universe is divided into predators and prey, the strong and the weak, the hunters and the hunted. This has been true long before humans existed, and it will be true long after your species is extinct. Jake found himself thinking about human history, about all the times his species had faced extinction and somehow survived. Ice ages, plagues, wars, disasters. Humanity had endured them all, not because they were the strongest, but because they refused to give up. You know what I think? Jake said, stepping forward despite every instinct telling him to run. I think you're wrong about us. Zexthal's multiple eyes focused on Jake with predatory interest. Really? And what makes you think that? Because you've been talking for the last few minutes instead of killing us, Jake replied. If we were really as helpless as you claim, you would have already finished your evaluation and transmitted your signal. But you're still here, still talking, still trying to convince us how hopeless this is. For the first time, something flickered in Zexthal's expression. It might have been uncertainty, or it might have been annoyance. You are correct that I have not yet transmitted the final signal, the alien admitted. But that is only because I am curious about how humans will react when they finally understand their situation. Will you beg? Will you fight uselessly? Will you try to bargain? Your responses will be valuable data for future encounters with your species. Or maybe, Dr. Hartwell said quietly, you're not as confident as you pretend to be. Zexthul turned, his attention to her, and Jake saw something dangerous flash in those alien eyes. Dr. Hartwell, you have been most helpful in providing information about human limitations. Perhaps you would like to be the first to demonstrate them. The alien began to move toward Dr. Hartwell with slow, deliberate steps. Each movement was calculated to inspire maximum fear, to break human morale before the killing began. But as Jake watched his crew, Casey reaching for backup weapons, Tyler working frantically at his console, Rachel preparing emergency communications, Dr. Hartwell standing her ground despite obvious terror, he realized that Zexthul had made a critical error in his evaluation. The alien saw prey. Jake saw humans, and humans, when cornered, were capable of things that no predator could anticipate. At 0203, the situation aboard the Meridian had completely reversed. Zexthul, the apex predator who had been so confident just minutes earlier, now found himself trapped in a shrinking containment field while the weak humans systematically dismantled his advantages. Dr. Hartwell had refined her sonic attack to target specific Kethari neural frequencies. The alien's enhanced senses, once his greatest advantage, were now working against him, as the carefully tuned sound waves disrupted his nervous system's ability to process information correctly. Fascinating, Dr. Hartwell observed as she watched. Her readings. Your redundant neural pathways are creating feedback loops. The sonic interference that would simply be painful to a human is causing complete system confusion in your brain. Zexthul tried to respond, but his motor control was becoming increasingly unreliable. His multiple eyes were having difficulty focusing, and his perfect balance was completely gone. Tyler had made significant progress in destabilizing the alien ship's power systems. Commander, their ship is experiencing cascade failures throughout all major systems. Navigation is offline, weapons are powering down, and life support is failing. How is that possible? Zexthul managed to ask, though his voice was slurred. From the neural disruption. Human engineering philosophy. Tyler explained cheerfully. We design our systems to be robust and adaptable because we expect things to go wrong. Your people apparently design everything to work perfectly under ideal conditions. But ideal conditions rarely last. Rachel had gained almost complete control of the alien vessel's computer systems. I've accessed their communication logs. Jake, you need to see this. The Kethari haven't just conquered 17 star systems. They've completely exterminated the intelligent life in 12 of them. The bridge fell silent for a moment as the implications sank in. This wasn't just about their own survival anymore. Zexthul's species was responsible for genocide on a massive scale. The Veltar, the Hixine, the Quinara, Jake said, remembering, the species Zexthul had mentioned earlier. They're all dead, aren't they? Dead or enslaved, Zexthul confirmed, though his ability to speak was deteriorating rapidly. As you soon will be. Casey had been working with the medical base systems to create an increasingly hostile environment for their prisoner. She had managed to introduce an anesthetic gas that, while not designed for alien physiology, was having interesting effects when combined with the sonic disruption and atmospheric changes. He's losing consciousness, Casey reported. Whatever that gas is doing to his system, it's working. But Dr. Hartwell was more interested in the biological data she was collecting. I'm getting incredible readings on Kethari physiology under stress. This information could save countless lives if we ever encounter their species again. Tyler made a disturbing discovery as he analyzed the alien ship's database. Commander, according to their records, this wasn't just a random hunting expedition. They've been systematically mapping this entire region of space, identifying potential threats and resources. How many other ships are out there? Jake asked. At least 50 that I can identify from their communication logs, and those are just the ones operating in this sector. Rachel's expression was grim as she continued reading the alien files. It gets worse. They have detailed information about human colonies, trade routes, and military installations. This species has been planning our extinction for months. The weight of responsibility settled on Jake's shoulders. This wasn't just about their ship anymore. Humanity's first contact with an alien species had revealed an existential threat to their entire civilization. Zexthul, Jake said, adjusting the containment field to allow the alien to hear him clearly. Your evaluation was incomplete. You analyzed human individuals, but you never understood human civilization. The alien's eyes struggled to focus on Jake. What? What do you mean? You saw weakness where we see efficiency, Dr. Hartwell explained as she continued her neural disruption. You saw limitation where we see specialization. You thought our cooperation made us vulnerable, but it actually makes us stronger than any individual predator. Tyler had found something important in the alien ship's technical specifications. Commander, I think I know why their technology is so vulnerable to our attacks. They design everything for maximum efficiency under controlled conditions. But human technology is designed to work under the worst possible circumstances. Explain, Jake ordered, Their power systems are incredibly advanced, but they require constant fine-tuning to maintain optimal performance. Our power systems are less efficient, but they'll keep running even when half the components are damaged. Their communication networks are faster and more sophisticated than ours, but they fail completely if any part of the system is compromised. Our networks are slower, but they automatically route around damage. Casey was monitoring the alien's vital signs through the medical sensors. His breathing is becoming irregular and his neural activity is showing severe disruption. Whatever we're doing to him, it's working better than any weapon we could have used. Rachel had been working to understand the alien's communication protocols. I've figured out how to send false signals to other Kethari ships. I can make it look like this sector has been surveyed and classified as empty of useful resources. Do it, Jake ordered. Buy us as much time as possible. But Dr. Hartwell had made the most important discovery of all. Jake, I've been analyzing the biological samples I collected during my initial examination of Zexthul. There's something in his physiology that changes everything. What do you mean? The Kethari are apex predators, but they're also specialists. They've evolved to be perfect killers, but that specialization comes at a cost. They're incredibly vulnerable to anything they haven't specifically adapted to handle. Jake began to understand. Like humans. Exactly like humans. We're generalists. We adapt to new situations, we improvise solutions, we use tools and technology to overcome our limitations. The Kethari probably never encountered a species like us because most intelligent species specialize in something. They become great warriors, or great builders, or great thinkers. But humans are mediocre at everything, which means we can handle situations that would defeat a specialist. Tyler's console showed that the alien ship was now completely dead in space. Their vessel is finished. No power, no communications, no life support. Even if Zexthul had backup, it's not coming. Zexthul's consciousness was fading rapidly under the combined assault of sonic disruption, atmospheric manipulation, and alien anesthetic. But Jake could see awareness still flickering in those multiple eyes. You wanted to evaluate human capabilities, Jake told the dying predator. Here's what you missed. Humans don't win because we're the strongest. We win because we never stop adapting. Every challenge makes us stronger. Every defeat teaches us something new. And every enemy eventually becomes obsolete. Casey checked her readings one more time. Vital signs are failing rapidly. He doesn't have long. But Rachel had found something else in the alien communication logs. Commander, there's another ship out there. A larger one. It appears to be some kind of command vessel. If we can capture it, we could get intelligence on their entire operation, Jake finished. Tyler, can our ship handle a confrontation with a larger Kethari vessel? Not directly, Tyler admitted. But we don't need to fight it directly. We can use the same tactics we used here. Turn their advantages against them. Dr. Hartwell was still collecting data as Zexthul's life signs continued to deteriorate. I'm getting everything I can about their physiology. If we encounter more of their species, we'll know exactly how to defeat them. The chronometer showed 02, 03, and 30 seconds. In less than 3 minutes, the crew of the Meridian had gone from being helpless prey to being the hunters. But Jake knew their real test was still ahead of them. Prepare for departure, Jake ordered. We have a galaxy to save. At exactly 02:04 ship time, Zexthul died. The apex predator who had confidently proclaimed human inferiority just minutes earlier now lay motionless in the medical bay, defeated not by superior strength or speed, but by the very human qualities he had dismissed as weaknesses. Dr. Hartwell checked her readings one final time. Neural activity has ceased. He's gone. Jake looked down at the alien's body, feeling no satisfaction in their victory. Record everything, every technique we used, every weakness we discovered, every piece of data Dr. Hartwell collected. This information could save millions of lives. Tyler had been monitoring the alien ship's final moments. Their vessel has completely shut down, all systems offline, hull integrity failing. It'll be nothing but debris within the hour. Good, Casey said grimly. One less Kethari ship to worry about. But Rachel's expression was troubled as she continued studying the communication logs. Unfortunately, we've got bigger problems. That command ship I mentioned is heading this way. It'll be here in 18 hours. Jake moved to the main display, where Tyler had plotted the approaching vessel's course. The command ship was massive, easily 10 times the size of the Meridian, and according to the alien database, it carried a crew of over 200 Kethari warriors. Specifications? Jake asked. Tyler pulled up the technical data they had extracted from Zexthul's ship. It's a Conquest-class vessel designed for system-wide operations. Advanced weapons, heavy shields, and enough firepower to destroy an entire planet if necessary. But it's also a specialized predator, Dr. Hartwell pointed out. If our theory is correct, it should have the same vulnerabilities we exploited. Here, just on a larger scale. Jake studied the data carefully. The command ship represented everything the Kethari stood for: overwhelming force, technological superiority, and complete confidence in their own invincibility. It was also, if their analysis was correct, a perfect example of over-specialization. Rachel, what's the status of our false signal transmission? Successfully sent. As far as the Kethari network knows, this sector has been surveyed and classified as empty. That should buy us some time before they send additional forces. How much time? Maybe weeks, possibly months. Their expansion appears to be carefully planned and methodical. They won't rush to claim an empty sector when there are more promising targets available. Jake made his decision. We're not running. If we can capture or destroy that command ship, we can deal a serious blow to their operations in this region. Casey looked skeptical. Commander, I'm all for fighting back. But that ship outguns us by orders of magnitude. How exactly do we take on something like that? The same way we defeated Zexthul, Jake replied. We don't fight their strengths. We exploit their weaknesses. Dr. Hartwell had been analyzing the biological data she had collected during their battle with the alien. I've identified several potential vulnerabilities in Kethari physiology. The sonic frequency that disrupted Zexthul's nervous system should work on the entire species. We could potentially incapacitate their entire crew. Can we generate that frequency on a ship-wide scale? Tyler asked. With some modifications to our communication array, yes. It would require significant power, but it's possible. Tyler was already running calculations. If we route power from non-essential systems, we could generate a sonic pulse powerful enough to affect the entire command ship. But we'd have to get close enough for it to be effective. How close? Jake asked. Dangerously close. We'd have to be within their weapons range. Rachel had been studying the Kethari tactical protocols. According to their operational procedures, command ships don't typically engage small vessels directly. They consider it beneath them. They'll probably try to capture us first to interrogate us about how we defeated their scout. That gives us an opportunity, Casey realized. If they're focused on capture rather than destruction, they'll have to lower their shields to use their tractor beam. Jake began to see the outline of a plan. Dr. Hartwell, how long would exposure to your sonic frequency need to be to cause permanent neural damage? For a Kethari? probably less than 30 seconds. Their enhanced nervous systems make them extremely vulnerable to this type of attack. Tyler was getting excited as he worked out the technical details. We could modify our engine output to make it look like we're suffering from critical damage. If they think we're helpless, they'll be more likely to try for a capture. And once they lower their shields for the tractor beam, Casey continued. We hit them with everything we've got, Jake finished. Rachel, can you prepare computer viruses designed to target their systems? Already working on it. I've adapted our most aggressive intrusion programs based on what I learned from Zexthul's ship. They should spread rapidly through their network once introduced. Dr. Hartwell made another important discovery as she continued her analysis. Jake, I've found something interesting in Zexthul's biological data. The Kethari have artificially enhanced their physical capabilities through some kind of bioengineering. That's why they're so much stronger and faster than natural evolution would allow. What does that mean for us? It means their enhancements probably have built-in limitations or fail-safes. If we can identify and exploit those, we might be able to turn their own augmentations against them. Tyler had been studying the command ship's approach vector. They're coming in fast and confident. No evasive maneuvers, no tactical formation. They clearly don't consider us a threat. Perfect, Jake said. Maintain that illusion for as long as possible. I want them completely surprised when we reveal our capabilities. Casey was preparing their modified tactics for the larger engagement. Commander, we should assume they have multiple backup systems and redundancies. Our attack will need to be simultaneous across multiple vectors to be effective. Agreed. Dr. Hartwell, how quickly can you deploy your sonic weapon? The modifications are almost complete. We'll be ready within the hour. Rachel looked up from her communication station with concern. I'm detecting additional signals from deeper in Kethari space. It looks like they're mobilizing additional forces for a major expansion push. This command ship might just be the beginning. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders again. If they failed here, humanity might never get another chance to strike back at the Kethari. This battle would determine not just their own fate, but possibly the fate of their entire species. Tyler, how long until the command ship reaches us? 17 hours and 43 minutes. Then we have 17 hours to turn the Meridian into something the Kethari have never encountered before. Jake looked around at his crew, seeing determination in every face. Dr. Hartwell, continue working on biological countermeasures. Rachel, perfect those computer viruses. Casey, prepare tactical scenarios for close-range combat. Tyler, I want every system on this ship optimized for our attack. What about you, Commander? Dr. Hartwell asked. Jake smiled, and it was the same predatory expression that Dr. Hartwell had seen on Zexthul's face at 002-001. But where the alien's smile had promised death, Jake's promised hope. I'm going to plan the destruction of an apex predator. As the crew dispersed to their tasks, Jake remained on the bridge, staring at the approaching icon on the tactical display. In less than 18 hours, they would face their greatest test. But they were no longer the same humans who had innocently responded to a distress call. They had learned what they were capable of when pushed to their limits. The Kethari had created their own worst nightmare, humans who knew exactly how dangerous they could be. The chronometer showed 0202 when Jake Morrison decided that humanity had been underestimated for the last time. As Zexthul moved toward Dr. Hartwell with predatory confidence, Jake did something the alien didn't expect. Instead of trying to fight the Kethari directly, he activated his command override for the ship's internal systems. Computer, emergency protocol 7 Alpha, Jake commanded. Immediately, the artificial gravity in the medical bay doubled. Zex Thul, for all his superior strength and speed, stumbled under the sudden change. His perfect balance was disrupted, as his body tried to adjust to weighing twice as much as it had moments before. Clever, Zexathol admitted, though he quickly adapted to the new conditions. But insufficient. Tyler had been watching Jake's tactical display and understood immediately. While Zexathol was adjusting to the gravity change, Tyler activated the atmospheric controls. The medical bay's air pressure began dropping rapidly as the ventilation system went into emergency evacuation mode. "Environmental warfare," Rachel said with growing excitement as she realized what her crewmates were doing. "We're not trying to fight him directly." Dr. Hartwell caught on quickly. While Zexthul was dealing with the atmospheric changes, she activated the medical bay's high-frequency sonic generators that were normally used for cleaning equipment. The sound was painful to human ears, but the aliens' enhanced hearing made it agonizing. Zexthul staggered, his multiple eyes watering. From the sonic assault, for the first time since revealing his true nature, he looked uncertain. "What are you doing?" "Learning," Jake replied, increasing the gravity to 2.5 times normal. "See, you made an assumption about human combat tactics. You thought we'd try to overpower you with brute force. But humans don't fight fair, Zexthul. We fight smart." Casey had found her backup weapon, but instead of pointing it at the alien, she used it to target the medical bay's environmental controls. Each shot carefully calibrated to create system failures that would make the room increasingly hostile to their unwelcome guest. "Your species evolved to be the perfect biological weapon," Tyler called out from his engineering station as he continued manipulating the ship's systems. "But you never learned to fight technology itself." The medical bay was becoming a nightmare of shifting gravity, changing atmospheric pressure, sonic interference, and fluctuating temperature. Zexathul was still dangerous, but he was no longer in complete control of the situation. "This is impossible," the alien snarled, though his voice was distorted by the atmospheric changes. "Prey species do not fight this way. That's because you've never encountered persistence hunters before," Dr. Hartwell said as she continued her sonic assault. "Humans didn't evolve to be apex predators through strength. We evolved to never give up." Rachel had been working at her communication station throughout the environmental attack. "Commander, I've managed to access the alien ship's communication system. I can disrupt their transmission protocols." "Do it," Jake ordered. The communication beam between Zexthul and his ship suddenly cut off, leaving the alien isolated aboard the Meridian. For the first time, Jake saw something like fear in those multiple eyes. "You cannot stop the inevitable," Zexthul insisted, though he was now struggling to maintain his footing under the increased gravity and changing atmosphere. "My people will come regardless." "Maybe," Casey said as she continued her systematic destruction of the medical bay's systems, "but they won't know what they're walking into. We're learning about your technology, your capabilities, your weaknesses. Every second you spend here teaches us more about how to fight your species." Tyler had been analyzing the alien ship's systems through their connection to the Meridian's computers. "Commander, I'm detecting some interesting vulnerabilities in their technology. It seems like Kethari systems aren't designed to operate independently. They rely heavily on central coordination." "Hive mind?" Dr. Hartwell asked while adjusting the sonic frequency to find the most effective setting. "Not exactly, but close. Their ships, their weapons, their tactical systems, they're all designed to work as part of a larger network. Cut off from that network, they lose a lot of their effectiveness." Zexthul lunged toward Tyler's position, moving with impressive speed despite the hostile environment. But Jake was ready for this. He activated the medical bay's emergency containment fields, energy barriers designed to isolate dangerous materials. The alien slammed into the barrier and bounced back, more surprised than hurt. "You see, Zexthul," Jake said, as he adjusted the containment field to keep the alien trapped in an increasingly small space, "you evaluated us based on our individual physical capabilities. But humans don't fight as individuals. We fight as a team." Rachel had made significant progress in disrupting the alien ship's systems. "I'm inside their computer network now. Their security is impressive, but not designed to handle human intrusion techniques. I can probably disable their weapon systems." "You cannot possibly understand our technology," Zexthul protested, though he was now pressed against the containment field as it slowly contracted. "You're right," Rachel admitted, "but I don't need to understand it to break it. Human computer viruses are designed to work on systems we don't fully comprehend. They adapt, they spread, they find weaknesses that even the original programmers didn't know existed." Dr. Hartwell had found the optimal sonic frequency to disrupt Kethari neural function. The alien was beginning to show signs of disorientation as his enhanced senses turned against him. "Your redundant nervous systems are actually a weakness. In this situation, more neural pathways mean more targets for disruption." Tyler discovered something interesting in the alien ship's power distribution systems. "Commander, their ship's power core is incredibly sophisticated, but it has a critical vulnerability. It requires constant monitoring and adjustment. Without someone actively controlling it, the power output becomes unstable. Can you exploit that?" Jake asked. "Already working on it," Tyler replied with grim satisfaction. "I'm introducing random variations in their power grid. Their ship's computer is trying to compensate, but it's fighting a losing battle." Casey had been studying the aliens' physical responses to their environmental warfare. "He's adapting faster than a human would, but he's still adapting. That means he has limits. We just need to push him past them." The containment field was now small enough that Zexthul could barely move. The combination of increased gravity, altered atmosphere, sonic interference, and spatial restriction was taking its toll on the supposedly superior predator. "This is not how combat works," Zexthul insisted, though his voice was becoming weaker. "You are supposed to face me directly. You are supposed to fight with honor." "Honor is a luxury that prey species can't afford," Jake replied, using the alien's own words against him. "We fight to survive, not to prove anything." Dr. Hartwell made a discovery that changed everything. "Jake, look at these readings. The sonic interference isn't just disrupting his hearing. It's affecting his entire nervous system. The redundant neural pathways that make him so resilient are also making him vulnerable to frequency-based attacks." "Can you increase the effect?" Jake asked. "I can do better than that," Dr. Hartwell said with a predatory smile of her own. "I can target specific neural functions. Motor control, sensory processing, cognitive function. I can shut them down one by one." Rachel looked up from her communication station with excitement. "I've gained control of their ship's navigation system. I can actually pilot it remotely now." Tyler's engineering expertise was proving invaluable. "Their power core is destabilizing rapidly. At current rates, their ship will lose all power within minutes." Casey had found a way to weaponize the medical bay's equipment in ways no Kethari could have anticipated. "Commander, I can flood this area with anesthetic gas. It might not affect him the same way it affects humans, but combined with everything else, Jake looked at his crew with pride. In less than 2 minutes, they had turned a hopeless situation into a tactical advantage. They weren't stronger than their opponent, but they were smarter, more adaptable, and infinitely more creative. "You wanted to evaluate human capabilities," Jake told the trapped alien. "How are we doing so far?" 18 hours later, the Kethari command ship Death's Edge dropped out of hyperspace exactly where their calculations predicted. Commander Vexcalar stood on the bridge of his massive vessel, confident that he was about to claim another easy victory for his species. "Report," Vexcalar commanded his tactical officer. "Single human vessel detected, Commander. It appears to be the ship that encountered our scout. The vessel shows signs of severe damage and is drifting without power." Vexcalar studied the tactical display with satisfaction. The small human ship looked pathetic compared to his Conquest-class vessel. "Any response to our hails?" "Weak transmissions only. They appear to be requesting assistance." "Assistance," Vexcalar repeated with amusement. "How perfectly predictable. Activate tractor beam and prepare boarding parties. I want to interrogate these humans personally before we execute them." Aboard the Meridian, Jake watched the massive alien ship approach with grim determination. "Status. Report." "Sonic weapon charged and ready," Dr. Hartwell reported from her position at the modified communication array. "Computer viruses loaded and prepared for transmission," Rachel confirmed. "All non-essential systems powered down to enhance the appearance of damage," Tyler said. "We're running on minimal power signatures. Weapon systems are hidden but ready for immediate activation," Casey added. Jake nodded. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The Kethari were behaving exactly as their psychological profiles predicted: arrogant, confident, and completely unprepared for what they were about to encounter. "Commander, they're activating their tractor beam," Tyler announced. On the Death's Edge, Vexcalar watched with predatory satisfaction as the human ship was drawn into his vessel's docking bay. "Scan the ship for occupants." 5 life signs detected, Commander. All appear to be in distress." "Excellent. Prepare a full interrogation team. I want to know how these primitives managed to destroy one of our scouts." But as the Meridian settled into the docking bay, Jake was already putting their plan into motion. "Dr. Hartwell, initiate sonic pulse. Rachel, release the viruses. Casey, target their power distribution nodes. Tyler, prepare for emergency maneuvers." The sonic weapon activated first, sending carefully tuned frequencies throughout the alien ship's hull. The sound was designed specifically to disrupt Kethari neural function, and the effect was immediate and devastating. Throughout the Death's Edge, Kethari warriors suddenly found themselves unable to coordinate their movements. Their enhanced nervous systems, so effective in normal combat, became liabilities as the sonic frequencies created feedback loops in their redundant neural pathways. Vexcalar staggered on his bridge, multiple eyes unfocused as his brain struggled to process the conflicting signals. What is happening?" His tactical officer tried to respond, but collapsed as his motor control failed completely. Across the ship, 200 of the galaxy's most feared predators found themselves helpless as their own enhanced biology turned against them. Rachel's computer viruses spread through the ship's network like wildfire. The Kethari computer systems, designed for maximum efficiency and integration, provided the perfect environment for the aggressive human malware to propagate. Within minutes, every major system on the ship was compromised. "Virus deployment successful," Rachel reported. "I have control of their navigation, weapons, life support, and communication systems." Casey's tactical strike was perfectly coordinated with the other attacks. As the alien crew struggled with neural disruption and system failures, she activated the Meridian's hidden weapons and systematically destroyed the command ship's power distribution nodes. "Primary power systems offline," Casey announced. "Secondary power failing. They're running on emergency power only." Tyler executed their escape maneuver, using the Meridian's engines to break free from the docking bay, while the alien ship was unable to respond. "We're clear of their ship, Commander." Jake activated the ship's communication system to address the crippled Kethari vessel. "Kethari Command Ship, this is Commander Morrison of the human vessel Meridian. Your vessel has been disabled and your crew incapacitated. Surrender immediately." On the bridge of the Death's Edge, Vexcalar struggled to comprehend what had happened. In less than 5 minutes, his mighty conquest ship had been reduced to a helpless hulk by a vessel 1/10 its size. "Impossible," he managed to say through the neural disruption. "Humans are prey species. You cannot be capable of this." "Your scout made the same mistake," Jake replied over the communication channel. "He evaluated our individual capabilities but failed to understand our collective strength. You see weakness where we see efficiency. You see limitations where we see opportunities for innovation." Dr. Hartwell had been monitoring the biological effects of their sonic weapon. "Commander, their entire crew is incapacitated but alive. The neural disruption should wear off in a few hours, but they'll be helpless until then." Rachel was deep inside the alien ship's computer systems, copying everything she could access. "I'm downloading their complete database. Star charts, ship locations, tactical plans, biological data on dozens of species. This is a treasure trove of intelligence." "What do we do with them?" Casey asked, gesturing toward the disabled command ship. Jake considered their options. The Kethari had committed genocide against multiple species and were planning to do the same to humanity. Justice demanded retribution, but Jake also recognized an opportunity. "We're going to reprogram them," Jake decided. "Reprogram them?" Dr. Hartwell asked. "Think about it. The Kethari are perfect predators, but they're also perfect followers. Their entire society is based on dominance hierarchies. If we can convince them that humans are the superior predators, they'll follow our lead instead of fighting us." Tyler understood immediately. "We use their own psychology against them. Instead of trying to destroy them, we make them into allies." "Exactly. Rachel, can you access their educational and conditioning systems?" "Already in. Their entire crew undergoes regular psychological conditioning to maintain their predatory instincts and social hierarchy. I can modify those programs." Jake activated the communication channel again. "Commander Vexcalar, your species has operated under a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of predation. You assumed that physical superiority made you apex predators. But true apex predators don't rely on strength alone. They rely on intelligence, adaptability, and the ability to turn any situation to their advantage." Vexcalar tried to respond, but the sonic disruption made coherent thought nearly impossible. "Your species will have a choice," Jake continued. "You can continue your current path and face extinction at the hands of a species that has mastered true predation. Or you can accept human guidance and learn what it really means to be an apex predator." Dr. Hartwell had been studying the data Rachel was extracting from the alien databases. "Jake, this is incredible. The Kethari have detailed information about hundreds of intelligent species across dozens of star systems. If we can turn them into allies, we could liberate entire civilizations." "That's the plan," Jake confirmed. "Tyler, Prepare to take the command ship under tow. We're going to need their resources and their knowledge if we're going to stop their expansion. Casey was already thinking tactically. Commander, if we can reprogram their crew and capture their other ships using similar tactics, we could build a fleet capable of challenging their entire empire. One ship at a time, Jake agreed. Rachel, how long to complete the psychological reprogramming? Their conditioning systems are incredibly sophisticated. I can probably have basic loyalty programming in place within a few hours. Complete behavioral modification might take days or weeks. We have time, Jake said. The false signals we sent should keep other Kethari ships away from this sector for at least a month. Over the next several hours, the crew of the Meridian worked to transform their former enemies into allies. Rachel's reprogramming was subtle but effective, convincing the Kethari crew that humans represented a superior form of predation that they should emulate and serve. Dr. Hartwell used her biological knowledge to develop more effective and less harmful methods of incapacitating Kethari opponents. Tyler studied their technology, finding ways to improve human ships and weapons. Casey developed new tactical doctrines that combined human adaptability with Kethari strength. When Vex Kalar finally regained consciousness, his first words were a request for orders from his new human commanders. 3 months later, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the human flagship Retribution, flanked by his original crew from the Meridian. Around them, a fleet of captured and converted Kethari vessels prepared for